Good morning. Welcome to our Obon family service and pet memorial service. It's hard to believe that we're now in our fourth month, I think, of this huge change, and we're hopeful that things will sort of get back to a place where we can have everyone back here, here at the temple for services, but we're not quite there yet. And so, let's keep following the guidelines, and let's keep wearing our masks, and let's keep doing everything we can to make sure that sometime soon we can have everyone back here at the temple. So today, as mentioned, it's also the pet memorial service, and something that we started a little while back, because pets are like family. And so in some cases, pets are almost more important than family. And so what we want to do is make sure that we honor the pets of some of our members and some of our temple friends. And so I think we have a little slideshow that we had some temple members send in some photos and send in a little brief description of some of the pets that were dear to them. And so we want to share that with you now. And so just take a look at this and enjoy the view of the pets of some of our members and temple friends. Did you enjoy that? There's some cute pets there. I don't know if you're a dog lover or a cat lover or a goldfish lover, but as mentioned, I think pets are a real important part of our lives, and to some extent during this pandemic and during this crisis that we're all sort of living through, I think pets play an even bigger part. And so anyways, continue to love your pets and continue to love your family, and let's move on here. So next we're going to have the Vandana Tisarana on, well, I guess you don't have service books, but Vandana Tisarana and the Three Treasures. So if you want to rise, please rise. So this is the Vandana Tisarana, followed by the Three Treasures.
Difficult is it to receive life in human form, now we are giving it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma, now we hear it. If we do not receive awakening in the present life, then in what life can we hope to receive it? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together as one, begin on the great path of enlightenment, holding in our hearts the supreme aspiration. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together as one, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, and attain true wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together as one, uniting in harmony, strive to live for the enlightenment of all beings. The incomparable, deep, and profound Dharma is difficult to encounter even through countless ages of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us endeavor to thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Buddha Dharma. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Now we're going to have sutra chanting. We're going to have the Tambutsuge. So please chant along. And I don't know if you can offer incense at home, but if you can't, you can do that also. But this is the Tambutsuge. So now we're going to go into our Dharma talks, but we want a better view of the speakers, and so we're going to do a little camera movement here. So just sort of bear with us. A couple of things I wanted to mention, though, is as most of you know, our live Obon, or our in-person Obon, has been canceled or postponed, or whatever you want to call it, and so we'll make announcements later. But please make sure you stay tuned for the virtual Obon. So next, we're going to have our Dharma talks. First will be the English Dharma talk, and Rimban will take care of that. But before we do that, we need to clean the podium. So hang on. I like to think of myself as clean, but you just never know. So Rimbanito with his Dharma talk in English.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Obon Pet Memorial Family Service for this year. As Buddhists, we're often reminded of the most important teaching of the impermanence of life. Sometimes we can control the change, but I would say most of the time we can't control it through our own powers and so forth. For the past 4 months, we haven't been able to control the changes in our lives, and life has primarily been dictated by the coronavirus and by the mandates, the instructions of our governor and our mayor. Around late June, maybe early June, late May and maybe early June, we were told that we're finally flattening out. And here at the temple, we were making tentative plans to reopen, and we're thinking that pretty much by today, the third Sunday of July, we could return to some semblance of normal that we were used to. But we see that we're back in a situation close to a complete lockdown again. And lately, I've been making trips to Morgan Hill, where my father-in-law lived, and actually had the chance to eat lunch inside of a restaurant. Well, actually, it was a kind of an outdoor courtyard, but at a restaurant. And that's the first and last time that I was able to do that since early March. So the impermanence that we're living through right now was totally unpredictable. And at least for now, it's changed how we live our lives. Today, we're holding our Obon Pet Memorial Family Service. And for many of you, you haven't really had a chance to attend the main Obon service, the main Obon and Hatsubon service that we conduct every year on the last Sunday of July. The reason why is because it's held on the second day of our festival, and so many of you are working hard to prepare for everything that needs to be done. And that's maybe the primary reason why we started to call the family service in July the Obon family service, and then later added the pet memorial to it. Obon, as you know, is an important Buddhist memorial service in which we remember family members, ancestors, and friends who have passed away before us, a kind of a memorial day for all people who passed away before us. The pet memorial was something that we started years ago to include animals in our Obon observance. And on the one hand, we tend to become so attached to our pets that we remember them even after they pass away. Yesterday, I was thinking about the old days, and I remember a time when my son Kaku lost a pet. And this was when he was about 7 or 8 years old. And he didn't have it for so long, and it wasn't the kind of pet like a dog or cat that you can cuddle up with. It was a turtle that was given to him by a family friend. The turtle lived in a nice aquarium, and he learned how to take care of it. And one morning, after many months, he came into our bedroom with tears in his eyes, and he said, "I think my turtle," he had a name, but I forgot what it was, "is dead." And so we went over to look, and sure enough, he had died. And so we put him into a small box and went into the yard to find a nice place to bury him. I remember having a small funeral service with chanting with the family gathered. I realized that the death of a pet is possibly the first experience for many children to come face to face with impermanence and the phenomenon of death. But in remembering our animal friends who have passed away, it seemed like a good idea to have this service to remember them. But my intention was to include another important Buddhist lesson, not only pets, not only the animals that we like, but to honor or to remember all living things. Buddhism often uses the term all living things, sentient beings, when even talking about human beings. All lives are precious, not only human. As many of you know, we are part of a group of temples that host a summer camp in the San Bernardino Mountains every year. I first went up, I think, in 1956 as a camper at age 8. And then eventually in high school, I went up as a counselor. And then from 1976, I started going up as a minister. Our main job being to lead morning services every day, but also to interact with the campers, the kids that are between the ages of 8 and 14, I think it is. Well, like everything else, we had to cancel this year's camp due to the fears of COVID-19. And many kids who have been going up every year were so sad to hear the news that this year's camp was going to be canceled. And so the staff decided to have a virtual camp. And so on Friday, I was asked to record a 30-minute video of a typical morning service that we have every day up at camp. It was really a lot of work finding a good place that kind of feels outdoorsy, like we're up in the mountains, finding a Buddha image that I could use, and an incense offering, an incense burner to do Oshoko. And it took me at least an hour to set everything up, and then to put on robes and start the service. And and since I was there by myself, well, up at camp, when we had morning service, tent groups would be assigned to be the MCs for the services, and so we ministers mainly just do the chanting, and then we give a Dharma talk. But so this time I had to do everything, and I started out by chanting the Sanseigen, and then recited the Golden Chain. And then looking at the clock on my phone as it was being recorded, I realized that I had to deliver a 20-minute talk, because they said that the morning service is like always 30 minutes, and so our recording had to be 30 minutes. So I started out by talking about the three treasures. Oh, and the theme for this year would have been the three treasures. And the theme for the day that I was leading service was going to be the third of the three treasures, namely Sangha. And so I started talking first about what the three treasures in general mean, and then specifically about what Sangha means. I also talked a little bit about the human rights issue that has been the other big news over the last couple of months, of how we are encouraged to have love and compassion for all people. And then how Buddhism regards all life as being equally valuable, not just human beings. And although, as I said, we recited the Golden Chain, and this is something that we do with the children. And here at our temple in Dharma school, I think they generally recite the Golden Chain. And there's this line in the Golden Chain where it says, I will be kind and gentle to all living things, especially those who are weaker than myself. Well, I think that that's a really wonderful lesson to teach our children and a good teaching to live by. But when you really think about it, it's really an impossible encouragement to be kind and gentle to all living things, especially those who are weaker than myself. That would, of course, include all of the pets that we remember today, but also pretty much every living thing that lives in our yard, even those that live in our house, like spiders and sometimes in the heat of summer, ants. I remember what was shared with us by a minister by the name of Reverend Kusala, who I met through meetings of the inner Buddhist group and also the Buddhist Catholic group that I've been a part of. And he was a Theravada monk and also ordained in the Vietnamese tradition as well. He was this big, huge American who rode a motorcycle, and he played a mean jazz harmonica. And one time we had him come to speak, and he also entertained us with his harmonica. But one of the things that I remember he said was, he said, it's a lot of work being Buddhist. Before then, if I saw a spider walking across the room, I would get a tissue, squash it, and then throw it in the trash can. Now, as a Buddhist, and especially as a Buddhist priest, I carefully catch the spider and without harming him, take him outside. I told the kids on Friday in my virtual talk about the Buddhist bug catcher, which I've introduced to you here, which makes it a lot easier to catch and release bugs that make their way into the house. I've probably caught at least 50 or so of spiders, mainly in my bathroom for some reason, but I guess because it's so bright I could see the spiders. But anyway, I've caught about 50 of them. And each time, I use this device called the bug catcher, and it catches it and it carefully kind of embraces it, and then I could take it outside and I could release the device, and the spider is able to fall to the ground and then run away. And so I know that all of those some 50 or so that I've caught, each time I'm able to catch them, and they're able to be still healthy when I release them outside. And so they're happy to be back in their element again, I think. It is, though, a dilemma. Buddhism encourages us to be kind and gentle to all living things, an impossible task. We can keep that encouragement in our hearts, but as I often say, how can you carefully pick up a few hundred ants who've decided to be guests in your house? A story I told in my virtual morning service was an experience that I had at camp, and I think I've shared this story before with you too. But at any rate, when we were up at camp, and especially when I was younger, I would, after morning service and then after breakfast, then the activities start. And there's maybe like 5 different activities that the camp groups do on a kind of a rotating basis. They go, they enjoy archery, they go hiking, they go to arts and crafts, they do cookouts and things like that. And so one day I was with a group of kids, a couple of tent groups, and we were waiting for the next activity to start. And there's usually this bell that's rung so that we know that it's time to go to the next activity. And so we were kind of standing in a big circle. There were like 2 tent groups, one boy and one girl tent groups. And we were all just kind of standing around and waiting for the bell, and people were talking. And all of a sudden, this huge cockroach happened to walk right into the middle of our circle. And so one of the kids sees it and says, "Wow, that's a huge cockroach. I've never seen one, that big in town." And then this male counselor, he goes over there and he just, he just squashes the cockroach. And so the cockroach just sprawls out and, obviously dead after stepping on him. And so then some of the boy kids, they say, all right, you got him, and they were kind of cheering what had happened. And so, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm up as a Buddhist minister, and, we're supposed to be teaching the kids about how precious all life is and so forth. And so after, maybe at lunchtime, I had a chance to see that counselor again, and I went up to him and I said, we're up here at this Buddhist camp, and we're trying to, instill Buddhist lessons into our children, or into the kids. And so maybe we should be a little bit more careful about how we adults act. And squashing the cockroach in front of everybody wasn't really a good thing to do, I think. And then he goes, "Oh, Sensei, I don't know what I was thinking, but all of a sudden I saw that cockroach, and my natural reaction was just to step on it." And I said, I understand, but anyways, maybe we could be more careful. And he says, "Sensei, you're absolutely right. I'll be much more careful in the future." And so then, I think it was the next day, I went home. I didn't usually stay for the whole week, although sometimes I did. But anyways, I went home, and it was it's usually end of July, beginning early August, and it was really hot. In the mountains, it wasn't that hot, but as I got closer and closer to the bottom of the mountain, you could just feel the heat. And we were living in Montebello at the time, and so then, I get home around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the kids are at school, and Janet is working, and so I'm home by myself. And I walk in, and it's really hot inside, and then I walk into the kitchen, and I realize that somebody had left the window open a little bit. And so there were like, tons of flies that were flying all through the kitchen. And so then, I said, well, I got to do something. And so my instinct was to reach for a fly swatter. And then I grabbed the fly swatter, and I started to just kill every fly that I could see, or that was like on the wall. And as I was killing my 5th fly, all of a sudden I remembered what had happened the day before, and how I had admonished this counselor for killing that cockroach. And here I am at home, and I've got this fly swatter, and I'm killing all these flies. No one's there to watch me. And so it's not so much that I thought about, well, no one's watching me so I could kill these flies, but it was just a kind of a natural reaction. And I realized that, really the kind of the impossibility of following the rules of the golden chain of being kind and gentle to every living thing, and to protect all who are weaker than ourselves. And but at the same time, we realize how important that lesson is, because it is really our responsibility to take care of not only the human beings in our lives, the family members, our friends, and so forth, but also all the other living things that we live together with. And I think that especially in this time when we're all suffering from the situation with the coronavirus and so forth, and then how we're seeing a new surge here in California, how important it is that we not only protect ourselves, but that we try to protect others that we live together with, or that we interact with on an everyday basis, and at the same time also to receive that lesson of not only being concerned about human beings, but also through this pet memorial service, realizing that we have that responsibility to take care of other living things as well. But I think that, the teaching of the Buddha is to encourage us to become that, totally compassionate, totally loving human being that could love all people and all living things. But then what Shindan's teaching is that, of course, we should do that. We should try to the best of our abilities to do that, but at the same time to realize that we as human beings cannot be that perfect human being that can love and have compassion for all living things. And I think that that lesson that I received of going home and killing the flies was one of those reminders, a very important reminder of how I treat, how I don't, have love and compassion for all living things. I remember the story of, it's like, although I'm not very good about doing it, we have weeds in our garden, and once in a while I, go out and pull the weeds. But there was this one story of this woman who was always going to the temple, and every morning when she'd wake up, she'd go out into the yard to pull weeds, and then, one day she was going to, she was at the temple and she was talking to the priest about how she goes out and kills weeds. But then some of the lessons that I've been receiving from your Dharma talk is that we should be compassionate, we should be loving to all living things, including, I would say including weeds, and so that I should respect them. So then he said, well, so does that mean that you no longer pull weeds in your yard? And she says, no, I can't have a garden with all, weeds growing all over the place. And so I still pull them. But then each time I pull out a weed, I say, Namo Amida Butsu, and I apologize to the weed for pulling it. So maybe this is, the closest we can get. This is the Shin Buddha's teaching in action. It is to teach us how we can live well and, follow the teachings of the Buddha, follow the encouragements of Shinran Shonin as we make our way through our lives. I think the Obon, the Obon service and then also the Pet Memorial service reminds us of the responsibility that we have in our everyday lives. It is that wonderful opportunity to see our limitations and to realize that we must keep listening and learning from the Buddha Dharma and follow the example of Shinran Shonin. Well, on the occasion of our Obon and Pet Memorial Family Service, I thank you all for joining us and thank you for listening.
Now we will have a Japanese Dharma talk by Reverend Fuji.
Good morning, everyone. I am fine, and I hope you are doing well too. I'm going to give a Japanese Dharma talk. 皆さんおはようございます。本日は、お盆そしてペットメモリアルサービスに、ご参加くださいましてありがとうございます。お盆ということで、お盆というのは、日本では、里帰りであったりとか盆踊り、そして、お墓参りということで、お寺に足を運んだり、地域の行事に、足を運ぶ、そういった機会かと思います。で、もう少しその内容というのを掘り下げていきますと、仏様の教え、仏の教えというものに出会う機会、そういったものがお盆なのかなというふうに思います。諸仏という言葉がございます。もろもろ漢字で書きますと、もろもろの仏様というふうに書き 仏様といえば、真実に目覚められた方、真実というのは、例えば諸行無常であったり、そういう常なるものはないということ、命も同じですね。ずっと続いていく命というのはない、それが、現実真実であるということが、その真実という教えの一つだと思います。そうした、教えに目覚められた方というのが、お釈迦様であって、そういった方、真実に目覚められた方のことを、仏様と言います。でとなりますと、諸仏ということは、そのお釈迦様一人だけではなくて、そういう教えに、命の大切さに、の教えに目覚められた方、そういった方々のことに対しても、言う言葉なのかと思います。ですから、お釈迦様であったり、親鸞上人であったり、自分のご先祖様であったり、身近な方、そういった方も、諸仏の一つに、なり得るのではないかなというふうに思います。本日はお盆の、サービスと同時に、ペットメモリアルということで、ペットの、そういうご縁として、行うサービスでもあります。日本ではあんまりペットメモリアルというのはまだ、少しずつ多分増えてはいると思うんですけど、私の実家の秋田のお寺ではそういったことは、してないんですけども、こちらでは積極的に行われているということで、非常にいいことかなというふうに思います。私もペットを飼ってまして、中学生、飼ってました。中学生ぐらいの頃に、猫なんですけども、灰色でしましまの、オスの猫を飼っていました。すごい、小さい頃から育ててて、非常に元気な猫だったんですけども、大体家の中で飼ってるので、そんなに強い猫ではなくて、たまに家の外に出ると、喧嘩をして怪我をして、帰ってきたりとか、そういった、猫でした。でも家族の中でも私に一番懐いていて、一緒に夜ベッドで寝たりとか、私が学校の勉強をしてると机とか本とかの上に乗ってきたり、すごい遊んでというふうに非常に懐いてる猫で、私も可愛がってました。で、私が18歳の時にもう大学に行くということになって、もう世話は家族が見てたんですけども、ある日家から連絡があって、病気で、死んでしまったというふうな連絡がありました。すごく可愛がってましたし、猫と人間なので言葉が通じるわけではないですけど、なんとなく自分としてはもう猫が言ってることが分かっているような、そういった気持ちになっていたので、本当に家族が亡くなったというのと同じぐらい悲しんだ記憶があります。ですから生きていたらこういうことが一緒にできたんじゃないかなとか、そういうことを考えますので、後悔がないと言ったら嘘になるかなというふうに思います。しかし命も時間も戻ってくるものではありませんし、今私にできること、私がどういうことができるのかといえば、今周りにいる人であったりとか、今ある時間ということを大切にしていかなければいけない、そういうことをして後悔のない生き方をしなければいけないというのが、そのペットを亡くして学んだことではあります。親鸞上人の書かれた、著書「教行信証」の中にこういったことが書いてますけども、先に生まれん者は後を導き、後に生まれん人は先を弔い、先に生まれた人というのは後から生まれた人のことを導いてあげて、で後から生まれた人っていうのは先に生まれた方のそういう導きであったり教えに従って生きることが大切だよということを親鸞上人はおっしゃっておりますけども、私たちはそういう命の大切さを教えてくださる諸仏仏様であったり、いろんな本ですけども、そういったこと、身近な先輩であったり先生、そういった方の教えに耳を傾けながら、人生というものを大切に、そして丁寧に生きていくということが大切なことなんではないかな というふうに思います。こうした、諸仏仏様の教えに触れる機会を、お盆そしてペットメモリアルのサービスでいただきましたので、改めて、普段聞いている教えではありますけれども、そういったことに、受け止め直すという機会にできたらというふうに思います。本日の法話はこれで終わりたいと思います。
Thank you, Reverend Fuji. Now we're going to have the singing of Ondok-san 2. So if you can gather those materials and sing along. This is Ondok-san 2. Thank you. And that concludes our Obon family service and pet memorial service for 2020. As everyone's mentioned, this pandemic, this crisis that we're sort of living through continues, and so it's affected many things for all of us. And obviously, it's affected a lot of things at the temple, and as you all know, our in-person Obon festival has been canceled, but we are having a virtual one, so please make sure you tune in for that. It'll be next Saturday at 5 o'clock, and so you can connect to it via our Facebook page, and there will be a virtual one at 5 o'clock next Saturday, July 25th. And on Sunday, July 26th, we will have our Hatsubon service, and that'll be here at the temple. Again, it'll be virtual, and so it'll just be the ministers, but we will honor all those who've passed away since our last one at our Hatsubon memorial service next Sunday, and it'll be at 10 o'clock, and so you can stream, you can virtually watch the service then. For those of you who, because we can't do our regular, large group Bonodori dancing. As mentioned, there's going to be some Bonodori dancing at the virtual one next Saturday. But for those who want even more Bonodori dancing, on Thursday, July 23rd, there's going to be some sort of Bonodori dance session available. So if you need more information, there might be information on the Facebook page, but if you need more information, you can call the temple office or get more information from the temple office, and also via our website. And so that's next Thursday. And then also, as mentioned, it's affected not only obviously Higashi Honganji, but it's affected all of Little Tokyo, and the entire world. But since we're right here in Little Tokyo, you can, it's affected the other Obon festivals at the other a lot of the community events. So you can support Little Tokyo by going to golittlетokyo.com. They usually do something called Delicious Little Tokyo, and they're still doing it, but it's virtual. And so you can get more information about that, as well as ways that you can support the various Little Tokyo businesses and restaurants, because, we gotta all stick together and pull together to get through this. So, that concludes the service for today. Make sure you watch our virtual Bon next Saturday at 5 o'clock, and tune in for our Hatsubon service next Sunday at 10 o'clock. But continue to wear your masks, continue to practice physical distancing, be safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week.